Yay, I've done it in time. I moved the microphone stand from like this corner to over here. So let me know how the audio sounds. I'm using separate audio from this. So can you guys actually hear me? Hold on. Can you guys actually hear me now? There we go. I think now I can hear the audio. I have to like hit the button over there because otherwise not. So what I missed was it took about I had 2 seconds left. I wanted to move this microphone mount from like that side to this side, so it was a little bit better. Thank you everybody. Hello, thanks for joining us. We have a whole bunch of people coming on here. We were actually 2 for 2. We are doing this. We did a live stream last Sunday, and I'm like, okay, let's do this one again this Sunday as well. Last Sunday we had it was a fantastic live stream. We had a whole bunch of YouTuber friends. I'm really thankful for everyone's support who came out. We had a ton of topics that we discussed. I actually have the sheets still here from last week of topics I wanted to discuss. We got about like one of them until the conversations opened up. So that was very, very cool. But it finally hit me. The fall is here. So on one hand, so I have 3 young daughters, and well, not young. They just turned 8, 5, and one just turned 2. And all of our birthdays are in the summertime. And then combine that with 4th of July party, my wife's birthday, my mom's birthday, all of it's like within like a 3-month period. So in the beginning of the year, after I came back from NRA, I was like, oh my God, like summer is going to be so amazing. We are going to get so many videos recorded. We're going to get so many videos done because the weather is finally going to be decent. Never mind the whole fact that it gets really, really hot during the summertime, but like, hey, the weather is going to be decent. And then it's like we've come to be known as party people, like in terms of having like really, really nice parties. And so obviously it's not a secret. I was born in the former Soviet Union. So like when we moved from Jersey to Pennsylvania, we have friends that are like Russian speaking friends and family still from Jersey. We have like American friends. So we homeschool all of our girls. So we have like forest school and a bunch of homeschooling groups. So we have all those American friends. And then we discovered that there's a bunch of Russian speaking people in Lehigh Valley area. So like those became friends. So it's like when you're doing a party between friends and family and stuff, it's like, well, it's like, who do you not invite if you want to keep it to normal levels? So like yesterday, I think it was like one of our bigger ones. I think we had like 30 kids and like 35 or 40 adults. And it's just amazing like how much goes into planning the parties and like the stress beforehand and afterwards. And needless to say, between all of that stuff, plus about a month and a half ago, I had 3 feet of water right here in the basement. So, like above the table level, dealing with all of that stuff. My plans for the summer were like completely went out the window. And now, like, so like yesterday at the party, I'm like, wow, there are people wearing jackets for the very first time that I'm seeing. I'm like, oh crap, winter is going to be here. But the good news is I already have my range days scheduled out. We do have a busy content calendar kind of like planned out. Good thing is we have a bunch, I was gonna say crap ton, but like we do have a good amount of videos that are already filmed. One of them was actually, so last week I released a video on the GRS rifle stock. Pretty good stock, good videos. It's already out there. I think I did a YouTube short for it as well. But also during the summertime. So what I failed to mention was um, I went on a trip to Tennessee. So I went to Tennessee and then up to Kentucky and did a number of videos with Troy Firearms. We do have some news on that. So, yay, getting my own gun. It did a tour with Troy, did a bunch of videos on their newer firearms that are coming out. Had a really good time. Had a good opportunity to discuss all of the concerns people have about the gun industry, and obviously, like Troy in the past, they made some questionable hiring decisions. And honestly, I think like that was like a really good conversation. It was a really good time. I was there for about 2 days. And the biggest takeaway from there is, I mean, the owner, Steve Troy, is like amazing company, amazing employees there now. And the biggest thing that stood out to me, so it's a kind of like in the gun industry, when you go in there, oftentimes like you're going to meet these people that are like definitely have the dickwa attitude. So like, don't you know who I am? And I'm definitely better than you. And almost like in the back of my mind, I almost possibly expected that that's what was going to come. And it absolutely was not. What I was most floored and shocked by is by how genuinely honest he was and how open to feedback on parts and everything. And kind of like the biggest thing for me was like, I kind of like took it. We looked at one of the guns that was coming out. I'm like, hey, it's kind of like missing this feature. On the spot, he calls in one of his engineers. Hey, this is what we want to do. The following day, they already had a prototype that they're implementing, and it's going to be on the upcoming guns, which is like blown away. Number two, with their distributor. So I was actually invited down there by one of the local distributors who pretty much handles a lot of the civilian sales for them. And he kind of asked me to go down there and see like, hey, what kind of features, what do we want to put into a gun? And kind of going back to like, hey, we're not above you. Is like, it wasn't like, okay, you can only have this gun this way, and it's like our way or the highway. He was like, yeah, okay, like this is our recommendation, but hey, if you want to go with various options, you want to change out the stock, you want to change out the pistol grip, you want a different rail, things like that. It's like, oh, you want ambi controls or you want this different charging handle, they're 100% with it. And it was just, it was really, really cool. And I guess probably the coolest part that came out of it afterwards, I guess I'll break it on here. So one of the things we were discussing was kind of like caliber choices, and I'm not obviously it's not a secret. I'm a fan of 6mm arc. I'm a fan of 6.5 Brendel, and one of the things we're kind of like toying with is the idea of having like a high quality, mil spec ready, accurate 6mm arc gun. And I kind of gave him those ideas. A week after I come back, I get a phone call. Hey, do you want to work with us? And what would you want on a specifications list for this gun? And do you want to put your name on it? I'm like, huh? Like I find like I made it. So it was really definitely really really cool. So there will be more news on that stuff coming out. So that was definitely really cool. So we're gonna I think I have like 4 or 5 videos on that topic. We're gonna kind of go through that. Then I did spend a day. I went up to visit a friend of ours, Ryan, Bending Ballistics. He was up in Kentucky, and we were able to shoot our Ruger American 6.5 Brendel out to 1,550 yards and actually hitting with it, which was really, really cool. So I have photos, I have some drone footage, and that'll be published very, very soon. All right, so let me go back through. Drew, I love your comment. We are going to absolutely bring back 45 gap. I did bring that up during the conversation in the PCC world. I really, really did. That might be a little bit tougher, but I was like, hey, like, like if there's a minimum order quantity that you can put together, they will absolutely put that together for you. So that'll be cool. All right, so let me start going through some of the comments. If there's like a question or a topic that you guys definitely want to discuss, let me know. I do have a number of things. I'm not sure if we're going to be joined by any guests. So if not, it's going to be an intimate conversations between us as our SlavGuns family. And I'm like still it's like we're going on, I think, our 4th or 5th year as a channel, and I'm just like overwhelmed by the community that we've built up, and it's really cool. Like between not even just like our YouTuber buddies, but like our audience, all of you, and like just kind of going like you're hopping from my stream to their streams, and it's really cool to build up that big family. All right, so actually one things I want to discuss. So the CZ600. The CZ600, so I did 4 videos on it, and that's actually it's going to be a really good segment into the Springfield 2020. So the CZ600 was launched 2 years ago at SHOT Show, and I'm a fan of CZ. I'm definitely a fan of the products that CZ puts together, and they're one of those companies that in recent years has not been. So I guess let's put it this way. Traditionally, they've been a company that makes really, really good products, but like they don't think highly of themselves. And they basically were kept like as this really, really cool secret. It was like very fanboyish, very cultish type world. And the best evidence of this is actually found with their handguns in USPSA, where if you go to a nationals level match, close to 50% of the handguns being shot at, so let's say out of 400 competitors, about half of the guns that are shot at a nationals level match are CZs or CZ clones. Meanwhile, if you go look at statistics across the board, just broadly in the United States, CZ can barely break out of 1% market share. So when CZ came out with the marketing slogan, CZ, for those that know, I immediately thought that either the person in charge of that marketing was really, really, they deserve the award for the best memes because that almost like describes CZ. It's like for those that know, but it's not something to be proud of. It's like, especially when you're trying to become a bigger, more mainstream manufacturer, but outside of a very niche community, and generally that is going to be three that I can think of. That's going to be number one, handgun USPSA and IDPA competitors. Number two, that's going to be the CZ457 crowd, which is going to be your extended rimfire shooting competitors. And then in the European and safari hunting markets, some of our shotguns and rifles, they were fairly well known and popular. However, your general gun owner has, for the most part, has never heard of them. And if you see one of the guns on the store shelves, it's almost like a shock. So when CZ came out with the CZ600, I was like, hey, you know what? This has a lot of really awesome features. They promised a lot. I knew it was generally going to be accurate, but they just completely fumbled it so badly. So they came out with the CZ600. What they promised, they overpromised and then underdelivered. Now, the product that they underdelivered is still pretty damn good. But my biggest issue with it was that they overpromised, and the features that they overpromised on were never delivered. And that's primarily what I'm talking about is going to be the interchangeable barrel systems. And on the CZ600, so basically the premise of it was, hey, we're going to have the CZ600 Alpha, which is going to give you all the features that you need. It's an aluminum receiver. It's a heavier contour target barrel. We're going to have like this really nice trigger in there that's going to be user adjustable, and the trigger is pretty good. The gun is stupid accurate. It's about half MOA out of the 6.5 PRC that I bought. But the biggest reason that I thought that that gun was going to really nail it out of the ballpark was that they came out with a new action, and they basically promised that you're going to be able to go online and buy a replacement barrel, and then with 3 torque screws, you'll be able to replace it. So if you're familiar with the Desertec system and the quick barrel systems on there, it's a very similar concept. So you're going to have the lugs that are built into the barrel. Now, the way the Desertec generally does it in the aftermarket companies, we take a regular barrel and almost kind of like an AR-15, we're going to put a receiver extension on. Same thing with the Desertecs. With the CZ600, they use different manufacturing or different CNC machines where you can't do it like on a regular lathe, but the receiver lugs, were actually built into the barrel, and it wasn't a separate extension. So your typical gunsmith wasn't going to be able to replace the barrels, but CZ basically promised when we launched the gun, hey, you know what? We're going to be able to get the gun, and then you're going to be able to swap out the bolt and, or actually the bolt head, and you're going to be able to buy replacement barrels at a reasonable price. And this is going to be fantastically awesome. So let's say, for example, you wanted a 6.5 PRC and then go to 300 PRC, or let's say 308, you want to go to 6.5 Creedmoor. You'd really be a barrel swap, and that's it, assuming the same bolt face and the cartridge fits into the chamber. The guns came out, and so number one is like they said that they're going to launch the guns. They did not meet the deadline, I believe, for like 6 months. Then they finally do have the guns sent to the stores. Almost no press releases. Like this was like so silent. The cartridges they were supposed to launch with were like completely idiotic. And So for example, I guess the idiotic part was, so like the CZ600 was supposed to be the Alpha, which is going to be a regular polymer stock. You're going to have Deluxe, which was a safari type style gun with a heavier laminate wood stock. Then you had the Target, which was a heavier contoured barrel with a heavy Target laminate stock. And then they had the trail version. The CZ600 Alpha was available in a whole bunch of different cartridges. But let's say, for example, like your Target was available in 6 Creedmoor or 308. It wasn't available in 6.5 Creedmoor. And that is the predominant Target cartridge, and it's missing. Your hunting one was not available in 6.5 PRC, which is like ridiculous because 6.5 PRC is a terrific hunting cartridge. So it's just a whole bunch of like that stupidity. But the biggest thing was almost immediately after we started shipping the guns out, we're like, hey, we're doing a voluntary recall. We found that it is possible to improperly put the barrel back in, and the gun might go kaboom if it's not properly torqued to spec. And the fix for all of this was, yeah, we're going to permanently attach the barrels in place. So the biggest reason for purchasing the gun, the interchangeable barrel system at that price was completely unprecedented, is no longer there. So is it still a good gun? Yes. Did I buy one? Yes, and I paid full sticker for it. I think I paid like $700 or $800. And primarily, I really bought it because kind of really see if it's going to live up to the hype. But knowing that, hey, there's going to be like almost no aftermarket for the guns because like almost like no, because you have a crossbolt, not a crossbolt safety, but like the safety is a button that you push up and down for the stock. So the stocks would have to be machined a little bit differently, and it doesn't fit into a standard 700 footprint. So for somebody who wants to make an aftermarket stock, it's not a Savage or a Ruger that's going to sell hundreds of thousands per year. This is something that might possibly sell a couple, okay, maybe like 10,000 or 20,000 rifles per year. So in order to create something aftermarket for it, which is kind of completely ludicrous. But I did the videos. I mean, the gun shot really, really well. It shot lights out. It just kind of left a bad taste in your mouth that it was, it just left a bad taste in your mouth that the main feature to buy that gun was no longer there. And it's like, well, you still have the main price. So I basically decided, hey, instead of keeping it and not being able to get aftermarket barrels for it anyway, I decided to finally act on that voluntary recall. And I submitted the claim, hey, I want to sell the gun back to you because the main reason for me wanting the gun is no longer there. So let me give it back to you guys. Submitted the reform and like, oh, I get a response back. Well, you can't get your money back because because you just don't want it. I'm like, it's right on your damn website. Sent that back to him and was like, oh wow, I didn't realize that. I'm so sorry. Yeah, basically when you send the gun in, we'll be able to do that. And then like we were gonna send you a FedEx label for you to return the gun back. A week, I didn't get that label. I finally sent back other responses. It was so delayed. Then I finally get a response. Oh, we're so sorry. We're going to overnight you a box and a label. I'm like, yay. So I'm going to send the gun back in. But the biggest thing is, so I am going to buy that gun back. But now a bunch of the online distributors were actually selling them for as low as $450. I think it was like $4.99 instead of $7.99. And there's a $50 mail-in rebate. So for $450, you're basically buying a neutered gun that's going to have almost no aftermarket. But if you're looking for a gun that you're not going to do much on, it's an amazing value. So I'm going to get rid of so I'm sending back my 6.5 PRC, and I'm probably going to buy it back in 6.5 Creedmoor. So we'll see. But so far, I'm definitely not impressed with CZ customer service. I didn't tell him I'm a YouTuber, but I did write from my media at SlavGuns.com email, so hopefully somebody possibly figured it out. But it's weird. It's definitely, it's CZ. I mean, and unfortunately, you can basically say it's CZ and it's CZ. So there's that. Ta-da! All right. Reminder: we are doing our Sunway photo shooting tripod giveaway. We have 2 more weeks left on that. We are giving away a T2830. We're giving away a really, really cool shooting tripod. You don't need to pay to win or anything else like that. Just enter to win. There's multiple ways on there, and there are links to the giveaway when you go on our community tab. So on YouTube, I know there are people watching from Facebook and Twitter as well. So just go on our YouTube channel community page and it's going to be there. And I'll try to post a message on there as well. Unless somebody's basically wants to find it and post that link in chat, that's going to be really, really awesome. I'm not sure if I have any minions helping me out today. All right, so that was that. Number 2, along those lines, I am kind of announcing it on here. But it's something that's been asked of me for quite a while. But I launched a new site, luxgun.com. So you guys can go check it out. And what we are doing with that, there we go. What we're doing with luxgun.com, it is going to be a place where you can buy SlavGuns merchandise. I have our stickers. The t-shirts are going to be up on there very, very soon. But we're going to have it as a place where you can buy um, accessories. So definitely we're not dealing with firearms. I don't think so. But it's going to be a place where you can buy accessories. So let's say, for example, like scopes, shooting tripods, things like that. Um, where basically it's products that we like, but perhaps the distribution for them isn't that great. So instead of having you deal with somebody or a distributor, you'll be able to buy it directly from our website. We're probably going to offer free shipping or something along those lines, and you'll be able to get it from there. And any service issues or anything else like that, we'll deal with them directly here. And I already have a couple of products that are on there, and 2 of them are going to be the 2 tripods that like I feel really, really comfortable with. The T2830CS, the T3240 CSL, and you'll be able to buy them directly through our site instead of, let's say, Amazon or something else. So we're going to have more products that are going to go on there, including our merchandise, and you can buy stickers on there and stuff as well. And yes, so we're probably going to do another giveaway for our channel members as well. Drew did win one as I don't remember if it was the public one or the channel member one. But yes, I mean, very stupid awesome. And I think this is a great example for one of them. So like they reached out to me. Been working on it for about like a year and a half now. I looked at it and they reached out to me originally through Amazon. They saw that I was like, they're getting into the shooting community and kind of like the whole thing with shooting tripods. I know it's like the entire rage right now. And for good reasons. So it started out with competitors. Now you have a lot of special forces units overseas using them. The IDF uses them. It definitely helps. And generally speaking, the things you need in a shooting tripod are also going to be things that are going to be required for a high-end camera or photo tripod. I'm sorry, camera or video tripod. So, I mean, here's a little secret. Your Vortex Athlon loopholed, missing one other one. It's the exact same tripod. They don't make them. They're made for them by a Chinese OEM. So one of our competitors, Sunway Photo, they reached out to me. I'm like looking at these. I'm like, wow, you know, like this is really, really good tripods. And what was really cool with that is, so they came out with a couple of tripods that they initially brought over from the camera market. And I'm like, wow, this is actually really, really good stuff. So I started hooking them up with a couple of content creator friends of mine. And the relationship was actually working. And I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, this is the feedback that we're getting. What would make this a little bit better, what would make this a little bit more conducive, and I guess kind of here's the story for the Sunway Photo T2830CS. Actually, let me put a link to that. Typing the link now. Okay. So you can actually take a look at the pictures on that one. So the story with that one was, so like they came out with a number of different tripods, and the big thing that you generally had in our industry was at the very high end, you had the Vortex and Loophole tripods. Well, Loophole didn't even launch theirs at that point. It was just Athlon. And we were like $1,000 tripods. And I'm like, okay, well, this is a little ridiculous. It's a little overkill. And really the only people that really buy it is somebody who's really dedicated and only shooting it from one position at a range, or you're competing in NRL or PRS or NRL Hunter. And in which case you do need the stability, but like in order to game it out, you do generally need something that huge. And spending $1,000 on top of another 15 or 20 that you already spent on your kit, it's not that much. But for the vast majority of people, it's a little ridiculous to ask. On the flip side of that, you had basically Bog, which is a Smith & Wesson brand. They came out with a couple of tripods, and when they're designing a product, they're designed to hit a certain price point. And while they gave the features that people were looking for, but because the price point was low, and they still needed to basically pay their OEM and then still have enough margins in there for their dealers and distributors to make money, and for them to make money, you basically have a $50 tripod that's being sold for $250, and it was basically heavy junk. So I'm like, okay, well, there has to be a little bit of room in between. So Sunray Photo had like the high-end T3640, T3650, but I'm like, okay, it's going to be a little bit too much for people. I'm like, hey, can you design a tripod that's going to be lightweight for hunters, and it's going to be good for teaching minors? It's going to be good for somebody who's kind of going out to the range and they want something light, and preferably if you can hit it under that $400 price point, that's going to be great. So I think before NRA or something like that, I kind of gave them that feedback, and they sent me a sample, and that was the T2830CS. I'm like, wow, this is pretty damn nice. Like, it's under 3 pounds. It's carbon fiber, shot basically 300 PRC off of it. Since then, somebody has shot a 50 BMG off of it. The head is included, comes with spike feet. It's all carbon fiber and aluminum. No plastic, nothing to snap, break, or anything else like that. And I got them to do a lifetime warranty on it. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what? For $400, it's going to be not bad. Then they told me, oh yeah, we're going to do this for $250. I'm like, get the fuck out. So I was really, really impressed with it. And that's okay. You know what? Like, let me actually start carrying them myself. So that was number one. And then the other one was, okay, so like the T2830CS is going to be amazing for somebody who's hunting or backpacking. But the problem was it's not tall enough for like super tall shooters if you just want to constantly shoot off of it. So the other one was they had a tripod, which was the T3240. I'm like, okay, well, can you actually hit that $400 price point, but make it taller? And that's the T3240 CSL. And that's the tripod. So, I mean, I didn't expect it, but we shot 1550 off of the tripod, and it was like super stable. We sent it out to a bunch of YouTubers for review, and they all loved it. Logan, West Desert Shooter, Mullets, Guns in America, him. He has it. Stephen Bullets for Bucks, a bunch of YouTubers, they have it for starting to come out with the videos for it, and everyone freaking loves it. So like for that $400 price point, it's unbeatable. And the only problem with this looks like they come up with a really, really good product, and like they definitely were open to feedback, but we still had absolutely no clue how to reach the right people. And that's why I started working with them to helping them out with their marketing side. And then I just basically decided, hey, you know what? Let me actually just carry a bunch of the stuff and distribute it for them. So then you can talk to somebody who speaks English most of the time. So that's that one. So I'm going to have detailed videos on those two tripods soon. And you'll already have it there. We're going to think, hey, Mr. Bullets for Bucks is here. Very, very cool. So Ryan actually does have it as well. Mine has held up a ton of hunting tools, and I've harvested several goats off of it at 800 yards. Very, very cool. Steven, I just saw that you popped on. I will bring you on in a few seconds. Oh, yes, you two buddy buddies. Very cool. James, congratulations on shooting that far. That is super awesome. Okay. All right, so a couple other topics, and then we'll bring Steven on. Let me know what you think. I've had people already subscribe to this. So as more and more people are joining in here, Drew, you're good. But so there is actually one point that has kind of got on them a little bit, which was the O-ring design for one of the rubber feet. So if you don't have it really, really tight, sometimes when you're untwisting the collar locks, you might accidentally untwist the rubber feet and they might pop off. So that's why me personally, if you're buying it through us, I am including extra feet just in case. Or just put spikes on and just do that. All right. All right. Here's a question for you guys. Fan meetup. So I was basically thinking, and we might have started discussing this last time, of doing a fan meetup around SHOT Show. So SHOT Show is going to be in Vegas in January. And the plan of it is, I'm not sure if I mean, I know we have a sizable audience, but in my head, like it's still a tiny ass audience. But what we're basically going to do is I want to put together a big fan meetup for like other gun channels in our community. So I believe Bullets for Bucks said yes, Alex Affordable Optics, Derek Northwest Guns, which isn't Northwest Guns, and a few others basically say, hey, yeah, you know, we're gonna get together. And so anybody as a fan collectively, you guys absolutely feel free to come out. We'll try to do an event. Could be something just hanging out, or possibly maybe doing a range day, depending on what it is. But if anyone's planning on doing SHOT Show or around that, do let us know. And then Springfield 2020. I did buy a Springfield 2020. I did pick it up. My local dealer called me. I have it like right there. Obviously, because it's a live stream and we can't handle firearms on here. We can't handle firearms on a live stream. So yeah, there's that. All right, so I'm gonna bring Steven. So I'm gonna shoot it this week. Now that all of the parties and all that stuff is out, it is on my calendar, and we're gonna do videos with that. So basically, the more videos I watch of other content creators, the pattern seems to be pretty clear. The people who got that gun from Springfield is like, oh, this is a great gun, great build quality, it's super accurate. And then the people that spent their own money on it, this thing can't shoot for shit. Extraction issues, mediocre like build quality, things like that. So, yep, James, you should go to SHOT Show. We can hook you up with that. Aren't you fairly close there anyway? All right. So the topic that I actually kind of wanted to discuss, kind of going back to it, and let me know your thoughts, is going to be um, one of the things that gets me is on YouTube when gun creators, when we love being drama queens, and we're like, oh, YouTube demonetized my channel, or YouTube demonetized this video, and oh, this video was performing well for 15 days, and then it just completely died off. So they must be singling me out and shadow banning me. And personally, I think it's all a bunch of bullshit. Because I mean, yes, YouTube does suppress certain content, but it's not gun content. They don't suppress gun content because the audience for gun content is extremely valuable. But the issue that we have is the disconnect between the disconnect between human people who set the policy, interpret the policies, the algorithms that enforce the policies and certain groups that are outside of the United States that are tasked to oversee and review the policies, but generally get it wrong. But that's basically my take on it. All right, so let's bring, and then we can obviously talk about YouTube Shills about my Springfield. So Stephen, let me know that you're good. Give me a thumbs up. All right, I'm gonna plug in my microphone here, so we're not feedbacking. And there he is. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm pretty good. How's it going?
It's like I'm interested in hearing you talk, but I don't really want to listen until I put these on.
Yeah, I'm used to that.
Yes. Okay, what are you drinking?
This is just juice. It's cranberry
Okay.
juice.
So it's funny, like I was gonna be like, hey, let me be like our friend Iliad, Dark Lord of Optics, and bring like wanted a beer or something like that, but I definitely do know. So after the party yesterday, and like if I would have more alcohol today, I'd be like I'd be like falling asleep after this, and I still have to record a couple of smaller video clips. So I'm like, it's water for me here as well. So
Yeah, it's just cranberry juice. I'm still getting over a cold, so I'm not. I think alcohol kind of makes it worse instead of better, unless it's like a what do they call that? A hot toddy or whatever.
what?
A hot toddy, isn't that what they call it?
I have never heard of
It's where
that.
you take like lemonade, tea, and alcohol and mixed or something like that. And it's warm. Anyways, it's just cranberry juice.
All
I
right.
have some comments on the Sunway photo though too.
Absolutely,
Tripod.
go ahead.
And they're not meant to be controversial. they're
It's
they're not
okay, go
they're
ahead.
not bad. They're not bad. They're just honest. So
Okay.
I have you've sent me like a couple, and
Mm-hmm.
so far really impressed that it's like aluminum and metal components and carbon fiber instead of like plastic and carbon fiber or aluminum and plastic like I'm used to. So I really do like them. Um, one thing, I took a guy out 2 days ago actually to help him try to get an antelope, and we used one of them. I can't remember which one it was, to be honest, but it's got the so you got the gun saddle that
Mm-hmm.
goes clamps into the Arca Swiss.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the tripod itself has the quick like lever for locking the
Mm-hmm.
ball head. One thing, it works fantastic at the range shooting off the
Yep.
saddle. I don't have huge problems, but what I noticed very quickly, and Sunway Photo probably has a head for this. That's partly why
Mm-hmm.
I'm bringing it up, because I think I just need a different head. But if he shot and missed, which happened, or he
Yep.
shot, or he was trying to track the antelope till
Okay.
it stopped and then shoot, because it was all or nothing locked in on the ball head, like it was all or
Okay.
nothing. It was kind of, that was very problematic compared
Okay.
to a tripod where you just have this very smooth ball head where you can it kind of just holds it, but not like rock solid, but like solid
Yep.
enough to shoot while hunting. So what is do you guys have an answer for that, or
Which one was
are
it?
they developing?
Which one
It
was it?
was
The
the
small
first one you sent. It was the first one you sent to me. I actually
was it?
have man, you
So
go ahead.
basically, the ones with the quick lever, you can adjust the tension on there. With that screw that's in there,
Mm-hmm.
you can adjust the tension. But generally, you can drag it and you can still move it and pan it. So that should not be an issue. It might just be extra tight in there so that the drag on there isn't.
Well, I did see that Sunway Photo had ones too where you could just adjust the knobs, and they didn't have a quick release lever, and so you
Okay.
could like adjust
Yep.
tension. I
Their head.
honestly, that seemed more applicable to this situation, but I don't
Okay.
know. I mean, I don't know if that lever. I'll look at it and I'll see if there's a.
Yeah.
I
There's an
know it
adjust.
didn't pan, and I know it didn't pan when we had
It's
it
just a
locked
regular
in. So
ball. It's just a regular ball head. It's like the big ball head in there, and then you had the latch on the side.
mm-hmm,
Right? Okay. So
mm-hmm.
basically, if you just undo that latch and you don't lock it in, it will let you it'll let you adjust it without while still keeping friction on it. So just release it
Uh,
slightly and then you can apply it.
It was like when I would release it, it was like you certainly adjust it, but like any kind of lockdown at all, it was just rock solid. Like I
Yeah,
couldn't pan or tilt or
yeah.
anything. So I think that's where like some other versions of other brands I've had where you could pan or tilt really smoothly and they'd be kind of like stiff, but not like totally locked in.
Mm-hmm.
And but I did see on Sunway Photo too, they had another saddle that attaches with its own ball head with just tension. Have you seen
Yep.
that? On their website? It had one that it attaches to the same tripod basically, but it has its own little ball head, and instead of
Mm-hmm.
being Arca Swiss or whatever underneath the saddle, right
So you
underneath
can
the saddle.
so
Anyway,
you can so you can actually do that yourself. So all of that stuff is modular. So you can undo the plate on the bottom, and you can undo the plate on top of the ball head, and you can put the entire saddle straight on the ball head on the tripod.
hmm,
So you can
hmm.
absolutely do that. Wow, that was weird. My laptop just like died down. So
Anyways,
yeah. All right. So
I'll
tell
mess
us.
with it. I'll mess with it.
Yeah. So tell us about your hunt while I go for the questions, and I'll put those comments up on there, and I will try to get for most of the questions. It's a very lively chat, and if you want to help support the channel, you can obviously send a super chat or a super sticker, and it'll go a long way. All right, and before you get too crazy, hot toddle. Oh, tea, honey, and liquor. Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know
There,
why I
there's.
said lemonade. Lemonade is a medicine ball tea. You put lemonade in tea. That's what I was thinking. That's why I got. But yeah, tea, honey, and liquor. That's correct. And then you heat it up, or it's heated. So
There you go. So tell us about your hunt for the people who missed it last week. I know you kind of barely discussed it a little bit. So even though you live in a big square state up wide north where it snows most of the time, apparently that wasn't cold enough for you and you decided to go all the way as far away from here as you possibly can and still be in the United States. And you went to Alaska. So tell us about that trip. It must have been awesome.
yeah, it was awesome. It was a big expedition for sure. I think one thing, I guess, if anybody in the audience is thinking about taking a trip to Alaska to hunt and do it DIY, these are good things to know. Is that there's a lot of logistics and travel involved, and certainly travel. Like you're traveling anywhere from, I would say, a minimum of 2 days, but we travel 4 days just to start to hunt. So you got basically a day of flight, 2 days of driving if you're going to go all the way up to the Dalton Highway, which is up towards Prudhoe Bay and the Arctic Ocean. Well, a gulf that goes into the Arctic Ocean. And then we also rode on a boat because I actually have a little boat now in Alaska. So it was basically 4 days of travel if you included the travel on the boat to start hunting. But it's beautiful. Southern Alaska is probably the prettiest place, or one of the prettiest places I've ever been, as far as like just the mountains and the glaciers and the ocean and everything. I think Grand Teton National Park's pretty in Wyoming as well. I'm where I'm at, but it's definitely up there as far as being beautiful. And then of course you have the sea life along the coast, which you don't have in places like Wyoming, which is cool. You see whales and things of that nature, and the fishing is really good. But we went all the way up off of the Dalton Highway. So it's actually, I think it's like 500 miles of gravel road. Now there are chunks of cement in between, like randomly almost. It's kind of funny, but it's not that bad. Like I think residents of Alaska, like residents of most places, probably exaggerate about their own state. So the Dalton Highway, or the Hall Road is the nickname for it, really isn't. It's a gravel road, but it's actually not that bad of a gravel road, and it's fairly wide, and it's pretty easy to travel. Actually, it's not too bad. It's mostly flat and just mostly in a straight line. You go over the Brooks Range. The Brooks Range are, in my opinion, is not as pretty as Southern Alaska, the mountains in Southern Alaska, but some people think it's prettier. So it's kind of personal preference. But it's a lot of tundra, a lot of brush, a lot of just like thick brush. And then you get past that, the Brooks, and it's just like a tundra, which is just like smushy sponge land. Like it's like it's like you're walking on a sponge with like lumps, like lumpy sponge lumps on top of a flat sponge. So it's, in places it's not hard to hike, and some places it's unbelievably ankle breaking. Like it's just like every step is like, just, it feels like a minefield. and just terrible. So if you stick to river bottoms, it's actually easier because you get like gravel and silt that washes up. You can kind of walk along it. But you can see for miles, and if it's warm, the mosquitoes are the worst you'll ever see in your life. If it's not, though, they can be completely gone. We were lucky we didn't have any mosquitoes. They got some cold fronts, and the mosquitoes were gone because of the cold fronts. But the hunt itself was difficult. I did get a tiny little bull, and then the second half of the trip, or 2/3 of the trip, we ended up fishing for salmon and halibut, which was fun in southern Alaska after we drove back down. But
Very cool. So like, is it like a certain time of the year you got to go there for hunts, or I mean, like, can you actually even hunt there in the wintertime, or it's like it's too cold and ridiculous?
It's broken. So the whole state's broken up in tons of units, like, and
Okay.
then each unit has like ABC designations. And so it's confusing, like most states are now. It's all, in my opinion, a lot of it's about money. But for non-residents, it's more confusing than residents. Like residents there it seems like they can hunt practically year round. Like they can get like insane amounts of caribou too. It's like the limits are really high. For non-resident, basically you can get one bull caribou. It used to be 2 years ago. Now it's like one bull caribou with most units. Some units are like draw only, is what I would call them, or limited quota, and then some are general. They have different terminology, but it's the same thing. Like in Wyoming, as far as like they just have a little bit different terminology. But so you can get one bull caribou. The season for me started August 1st. And then I can't remember how long it goes, but I know for residents, seasons are like literally like in July, they can hunt caribou all the way in through the winter, like into the other year. So their seasons are like super long. Even a lot of the resident caribou season or non-resident caribou seasons, I think, are really long. But I go at the beginning because it's actually not necessarily as good, but it's not as cold, and I can get back to hunt in my own state when the seasons start here. So if I went later, I'd be overlapping my own seasons in my home state. So it makes sense to go earlier. And that's what's nice about being able to go in August, because most hunting seasons in the lower 48 are, start September, October, maybe August a little bit for archery, for like antelope, but mainly it's like September on in the lower 48 into like the end of the year. Some places like Florida, you can sometimes hunt deer into like, I think, January, February, but August gives you that head start to where you can go hunt Alaska, and you're not taken away from your season at home.
So are you basically hunting there for sport, or do you actually harvest the meat and stuff? And because I mean, like, how much it would be stupid expensive probably to ship like a caribou back to the continental US.
I hunt. I don't, man. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't at all for sport. So I think it's for both. You have to, in Alaska, actually, their rules on harvesting the meat are super strict. Wyoming, you can like do the gutless method. You can take like 80 or 90% of the meat and you're still good. In Alaska, they want you to take like the rib meat, everything, basically. Like most units, you have to even leave it on the bone. Whereas in Wyoming, you could actually what they call debone. And they remove the meat from the bone. So it's easier to pack out. In Alaska, most units, you can't even do that legally. So, which is good. It makes it harder when you're trying to pack stuff out, but it's good. I believe in always taking the meat. So we take all the meat. We ate the backstrap and the tenderloins while we were there. And then, I got some meat ground up and stuff. Now, so normally I'll give away 50% to 75% of the meat to people who go with me. So that live there. So I do that. I did that last year. I did that this year. And then the fish, a lot of times I try to take back because it's harder to catch this. Like you can't catch ocean fish, saltwater fish in Wyoming. So I try to take back a lot of the fish. But the way I do it is you either get freezer boxes, which are for sale everywhere in Alaska, or you buy a cheap cooler and you freeze everything solid, pack up this cooler, and you fly back with it and you check it in as baggage. That's, in my opinion, the cheapest, best way to do it. Shipping meat back is incredibly expensive if you use a transporter or shipper.
And I'm sure the entire trip itself was not cheap either.
No, it was super expensive, especially since I paid for a video
Yeah.
kit, I'll call them, to go. And so yeah, it was really expensive. I think that it was, I mean, if I include the cost of buying, I bought a small jet boat, a used old boat with a jet motor on it to
Okay.
leave in Alaska with a friend. And so if I don't include that, it's not as of expensive. But like last year we did where we hiked in and we used pack rafts and we did it way cheaper. And that I'd say it like, I don't know how much I spent, but I'd say that like the cheapest you could do a DIY caribou hunt in Alaska would be like fly into Fairbanks,
Okay.
rent a U-Haul, and drive one day north, and then hunt archery off the highway, or be really hardcore and hike 5 miles, because there's a 5 mile boundary and you have to get past that boundary from the road just to use a rifle in Alaska off that in that
Wow.
area, which makes it incredibly physical. But you can archery hunt right next to the highway, and a lot of people have great success, especially if they're
Hmm.
proficient in archery hunting and really good with a bow. In fact, I'm considering getting going that route eventually. So like that you could probably do for $2,500. And
Okay.
that's like if you're eating ramen in a backpack, stove, and you're living in the back of the U-Haul, because you could just get a little U-Haul box truck, camp in the back of it off the haul road. That's the cheapest, easiest, and that's actually physically probably easier. You're only driving one day instead of two if you fly into Fairbanks. But success rates are going to be, not super high, because you're archery hunting something that uses its eyes a lot. It's not going to want to let you get close. It's very open country.
Yeah.
So
So, like, what kind of calibers and how far are your average shots that you are doing?
Oh, well, I last year I used 6.5 RPM. This year I used 300 PRC, which is in some degree overkill. I don't, anything for a mule deer, anything that you would think would be good for mule deer up is going to be good for a caribou. Um, you can use a 6.5 Creedmoor as long as your shot placement's good. It's going to be fine. They're not really that hardy when they're hit.
Hmm.
They're not like I've seen whitetail run farther. Whitetail tend to be like crazy when they get an adrenaline rush, but they're not hard to kill in that regard. I think the average shot, it's, people can argue, if you really are careful and you're in a unit with low pressure or area with low pressure, and, conditions are right, you could get into, less than 100 yards. But
Hmm.
I think the expected shot would probably be like around 300 yards. I think that it's similar in that regard to like antelope hunting in Wyoming. I'd say between 250 and 350 yards. Now, certainly last year I had actually better hunting, and I had bulls walking up 40 yards from me and looking right at me. So it's gonna vary, but I'd say be proficient at 300, and then you probably are good,
Yep. So there are
either
people who
way.
watch videos like so like, oh, the big Western hunts and stuff. Like, hey, you need something that's gonna have knockdown energy at 800 yards. What the heck are you shooting at 800 yards?
Well, I've gone full circle on this a lot, myself, because like I got into hunting and nobody taught me, and I got into guns and nobody taught me, and it was later in life. And so like I kind of learned from YouTube and hearsay and everything in between, and trial and error. I try to keep everything I shoot, any game animal I shoot, I try to keep it under 400 yards. That's like my personal rule. I wouldn't say it's a hard rule though, because like if I'm using a weapon system or a gun system that weighs 15 pounds versus 8 pounds, and I happen to have perfect conditions that day, and there's no other available shot, and it's a good animal, and everything feels right, and I know and I'm confident, then I might shoot 600. I still don't really want to say I'd shoot 800. I wouldn't say I wouldn't ever. I think I'd be lying if I said, oh, I'll never do that. Maybe I would, but it's probably super rare. I try to keep everything like even 300. Like 300 is even better. And the more I hunt and the more I shoot, actually, the closer I want to be, which is kind of ironic. The more expensive my gear has gotten, the more I've shot, the more I've hunted, the more I closer I want to be, because I realize that like fatigue, adrenaline, and stuff plays such a huge role in hunting and your accuracy while hunting. I think like I take whatever you shoot at the range on a regular basis that you're accurate at, and basically like cut it in half, and that's what your hunting range probably should be. But I don't want to say like that's a hard rule. It's just like my opinion. Because when you enter into like lack of sleep, high altitude, breathing hard, shooting from just all kinds of random positions. Rain, snow, all these things like pile up. They start to stack, and next thing you know, you're wounding an animal at like 400 yards if you're not careful. So, yeah, closer is better.
Now, have you hunted? So there's a comment from James about hunting in the Texas Triangle. I'm trying to find the comment now, but I can't find it. Have you done Texas before?
I haven't. I know. I lived in Texas for almost 2 years in my early 20s, but no, or in my teens and early 20s. I never. I was right, like 19 to 20. But I've never hunted Texas. I know I always say his name wrong, and it embarrasses me because I love him. But the Dark Lure Optics,
Ilya.
Ilya, yeah, and I always want to say Iliad or something like that. Ilya. Am I
Well,
still saying
the
it wrong?
interesting part is
I can't say it.
Ilya could probably write an Iliad.
But he's kind of invited me. Well, he kind of said I could come out in October, but then I was like, yeah, that's not going to work for me. There's just too much other things going on. But he to Texas, but then he was saying maybe again in like March, which I was like, that'd be way better for me. So maybe I will. Another guy invited me, and I unfortunately lost his contact information. A guy at SHOT Show invited me. But I would love to hunt hogs. That's what I want to do, thermal and night vision and hunt hogs there. Their deer are generally pretty small, things. I'm not really interested in everything there, but I would love to hunt hogs there. I've hunted hogs once in Florida, and I'm hoping to do that again in Florida over the holiday and January. The first week of January, I'm hoping to do a week of hog hunting and fishing in Florida and film it. That's kind of like
Awesome.
And maybe even shoot iguanas and eat them, because you can do that in Florida. They're a varmint. They're like an invasive
Do iguanas
species.
have
They're
balls?
everywhere. I don't know, but they're too small to eat, so I might have to forgo, unless they just eat the whole thing head to toe.
So this is like an inside thing. And you've done a video on this. So we call
It's
anytime there's
unlisted, but it's still somewhere. Yeah.
we'll find a video link to this, but Mr. Steven of Bullets for Bucks, he eats bear balls, and so he's Mr. Bear Ball. So anything that has balls, we'll discuss that. And James, I'm actually going to be in Dallas for a couple of days, beginning of October. I still haven't bought the tickets or anything yet, but if you're around there, let me know. All right, so I know you said you were on a time crunch, so what I want to do is go back through. Unless you have any other topics or thoughts, I want to go back through and start answering some of these questions, because we got a whole bunch of them here. Actually, there was a question on the 2020. Did you buy Springfield 2020 or no? Or like, I know Alex had one.
I bought a 2020, but it's not the rimfire. But yeah.
Yeah, you bought the centerfire. So people were asking about the centerfire. What are your thoughts on that?
I love it. It's the carbon fiber wrapped barrel. It's a 20-inch barrel. It doesn't have the adjustable cheek riser. I know, I forget, like there's a variant that apparently has that. Mine doesn't. I don't understand that. But like maybe that's the non-carbon. I don't know. Wrapped barrel version. I don't know. But mine has the same stock, but without the cutout and adjustable cheek piece, 20-inch barrel. I love it. The first time I ever took it out with factory ammunition, it was shooting sub MOA easily. And I love everything about it. I don't have any complaints. Now, I have had limited time with it. My goal is actually to put a tie-on suppressor on it and it be one of my primary hunting rifles next year. So but that's not going to happen. It's going to be next year before this even happens. Like I shot it, did some filming on it. I got a video out on it just like a week or two ago, actually. And then, so go ahead and watch that video if you guys want to, but like more in the field testing, more use is going to come next year. It's just, I might shoot it this year out to 1,000 yards and do another video, but like a lot of the plans I have for it just aren't going to happen this year.
Very cool. Yeah, and so basically, I mean, the Springfield 2020, I've never owned one, but I've shot them in a number of different events. And I think out of all the products that Springfield puts together, that's probably one of the better products. Obviously, there was an issue that it's only short action, regular action, short actions. They don't have anything for long action, and then they decided to come out with the Rimfire 2020. The biggest thing, though, with the Rimfire 2020 is that it is not made by Springfield. It is made for Springfield by a Turkish company, Retail Firearms, and the only thing it has is Springfield on it. Now, the one thing that kind of pisses me off is that it's right on there. It says made in Turkey, but Springfield decides to put an American flag in the bottom of the trigger guard. I'm like, it's just tacky. It really is. It's almost as tacky as I would say,
Sounds
like when almost as tacky as like when I'm sorry, Arms Corps, the Philippines 1911 company decides to make Trump or pro America 1911s. It's like, eh.
well,
Uh,
it's like Weatherby, stamps the Vanguards with a Sheridan, Wyoming stamp now. So you barely, it says made in Howa, I think still on the barrel.
okay.
I'm not even sure. It might still, but the receiver stamp Sheridan, Wyoming,
But
and
as
then I think
far as
underneath that it might say even Howa underneath it. But
But as far as I know, Weatherby they just use the Howa receivers. They don't use the entire barreled action. They do their own
oh,
barrels,
it's
correct?
it's the whole thing. It's the whole
Okay.
thing.
All
The
right.
Vanguard is a Howa barrel, Howa receiver, and the Howa trigger. That's what it is. We'll just leave it
Wow.
at that. Now, for the and I don't know, don't like hold me to everything I say. I'm certain of that. But
Okay, let me make sure
the
this
Mark
I'm sure let me
Fives,
make sure this is recording so we can catch Steven in a lie.
uh, the
Kidding.
the Mark Fives. No, the Vanguard is a Howa barrel, a
Okay.
Howa receiver, and a Howa trigger. They will say that like it's a proprietary trigger or whatever. It's the hack 2-stage trigger. That's what it is. It's the Howa trigger. They do a little bit of like, in my opinion, they do some extra QC, some extra adjusting
Okay.
to the trigger. I have heard rumors that they will do the barreling. I've heard rumors that they don't
That's
put
what I
the
heard.
barrel into it, even though it is Howa. I think that they come as barreled actions and maybe, but either way, it is a Howa barrel, a Howa trigger, and a Howa receiver on the
Okay.
Vanguards. On the Mark Fives, I have heard so many different things, and I used to know more, and I've forgotten. But of course, these Trigger Tech triggers goes with that on all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Trigger Tech trigger. I think it's like A Tech. I think A Tech out of like Minnesota or something. It might be Wisconsin. I think Minnesota makes the receivers, but that's like you're not supposed to say that, and that's like like I don't know if that's still true. And I think they or somebody else makes barrels, but I don't know. I know on the carbon fiber barrels, they're BSF carbon fiber barrels on
Okay.
the new Mark Fives. On the older Mark Fives, they were a different company. I think they might even been proof. I can't remember. The new Mark Fives are still BSF carbon fiber barrels. Which with BSF they use the core, like I think it's stainless
Is
steel.
it
I'm not
structured
100%
is it
sure, but
structured barrel or
it's a sheath of carbon fiber
okay.
rather than adhesed and wrapped. So
Okay.
they slide it into each other to mate it
Got it.
instead of wrapping it. Um, the I don't know where I was going with the new wave or the new what do they call them? The Weatherby 307s. Their 700 footprint new rifle. I don't know the truth on yet. I don't
Okay.
there's literature that's kind of saying they're made here, and there's literature that says otherwise, and I'm nearly certain that they're still just I think they're assembled here. I don't think the components are being made here. But I'm not 100% on that.
Okay. Very cool. So yeah, basically that was the
Anyways.
Springfield question. All right. So Buzz had a
Yeah,
question:
yeah,
is
then
there
I went,
anything decent in the AR trigger world coming out? I have a Rise armament that's starting to give me issues. What issues? I actually had Rise armament not Rise, but one of their marketing companies reach out to me. So I am going to be looking at the new 2-stage trigger that they came out with. That looked pretty. Is the Rise armament iconic trigger? That did look really, really interesting. I played with them at, I think, the NRA show and the PSA show. I haven't had too many, but if you're just looking for a regular good AR trigger, there's plenty of choices. My personal favorite for the money is actually taking a Ruger Elite 556 trigger. No, sorry, 452 trigger, which is about 120 bucks, and then getting a $10 Springs kit by Caw Valley Precision. And it drops it down to a beautiful 2.5 pound AR trigger, and I've never had any issues with those. But honestly, I'm sure if you reach out to Rise, I'm sure they'll probably help you out with
Does
that.
does Rise Armament make a set trigger? Like, did you see those? I had video shorts on like 2 different versions from SHOT Show where it was like you could touch the bottom of the trigger and it was like separate from the blade, and it could set it to like 1 pound versus 4 pounds. And then if you hit the middle blade and
I
pulled, like,
think
you remember when I had those shorts out? I don't even remember what they were. I have to watch my own
so.
short.
There is an AR set trigger. The one I have is made by Jarred. So basically, that one, it's a regular 4.5 pound trigger, and then when you push it forward, it sets it to. It's supposed to be 1 pound, and mine it's actually 7 ounces as it came. I did have issues with that though, because the screw would back out, almost becoming too light, that it wasn't able to keep the set trigger. So I put it back in, and it actually works now. So I think I did a video on that. I'll have to
Oh, this
find
was
it,
the.
but I'm not sure I'd recommend it.
I
So
think
that's
this might
why
have been Strike Industries.
it wouldn't surprise me. Strike makes a whole bunch of stuff. Was it for the AR? Or was it for?
It was for an AR. It had a trigger with a blade down the middle, kind of like if you picture just a Glock trigger, how
Yep,
that
yep, yep.
looks. And you push the whole thing, and you don't. It's like 4 pounds or 5 pounds. You
Yeah.
push the bottom like tip of it, and it clicks, and then it sets and then you push it in the middle. You pull it in the middle, excuse me, and it's like a pound.
Interesting.
I should know, but
Okay.
I don't. So.
Bring back 45 gap, put it on American flag like a foreign country, put the AK on there. So that's why I was kind of bringing up the American flag on the Turkish-made gun. But the country thinking of, I believe it's Mozambique, and there's somebody else that has the AK on their flag. Legit, I think it's like 2 or 3 countries that actually do. I'm fairly positive
Wait,
it's 2.
How is sending me of course their American flag chassis rifle finally, the APC American
The,
flag. So it's all
on the
painted like American flag.
on the
It's
Australian
from Japan.
chassis.
No, well, this
I think
isn't the TSPX. This is the APC. I don't know if that's Australian or not. Maybe it is. I can't even talk tonight. It might be.
I think they had
I,
they dealt with 2 companies that make Australian chassis.
well, I know that the TSPX, the TSPH,
Yep.
and some other guns.
Oh, there's the CC, the Southern
Uh,
Cross, something.
Southern Cross Small Arms out of Australia makes those chassis, but I don't know who makes the APC chassis. But it's
That's
still
right.
funny because you have a Japanese gun, with an American flag all over it. But
That's what happens when you drop 2 bombs on them. You beat them
oh
into
my
submission.
gosh, you went and said it. Oh boy. Oh yeah.
We did. We did drop those
Yeah.
bombs to make a statement to the Soviet Union. It was absolutely not necessary.
Well, you know that since we dropped the bombs, that they were ethical and moral because Russia didn't drop them, right? You know that, right? Or China.
Oh,
Don't worry, guys. I
Steven,
am pro-American. I'm
Steven,
pro-military, but I
I think
also
you're
have a
speaking
balanced
like a
view.
Putin apologist.
No, I'm not. I don't like Putin. I don't agree with Russia, but I can be objective. Like, come
There
on.
you go. All right. I wrote a long letter to President Ruger on Friday evening that they need to do a 22-inch 6mm arc. I'm not sure what I can say and what I can't say. They have done them in the past. Here's what I can say. I was told that they have done them in the past when Hornady was testing out the cartridge. They were involved with the development, and Ruger did put together some guns. And while Ruger might not make a 6mm arc Ruger American because they don't want to jump into something like that's still going to be a fairly limited market, if they do a 6mm arc gun, it is going to be in a AR. So here's a question: have you done anything with 6 arc, or do you see yourself doing anything with 6 arc?
Oh, it was one of those things that wasn't that right around the time ammunition went through the roof,
Mm-hmm.
right before. Yeah, it was one of those things where like I actually bought a box of bullets and I was going to get a rifle, and then it all just fell apart because like ammunition went through the roof, and then I didn't have the money at the time, and so like that was one of those projects that's probably never going to happen at this point, or if it does, it's not like a planned thing. Like maybe a company will be like, "Hey, we'll send you a rifle in 6," and then maybe I'll be like, "Okay," but no plans.
Yep. Joe is in the house. Thank you, buddy. So here's a comment for him. CZ
Hey,
customer service is horrible. Great guns, but if you have to deal with them, it's a nightmare. So this is actually the first time I'm having to work with them. It's leaving a slightly little. Let's put this. It's a little bit pain in the butt, and I would say my level, my tolerance level for BS is quite a bit higher than your typical gun owner. Um, but it's like it doesn't surprise me. It definitely does not surprise me. Um, Now, did you have experiences with their customer service? Let me know. Uh, it's going to be interesting. And what's peculiar for me, so obviously CZ bought Colt, and they bought Colt for the patents portfolio and the cage number and for government contracts. But so, for example, like the CZ 600, since we're talking about it, Colt did launch their version of it, and it's the exact, it's the same barreled action, except a heavier contoured barrel in a metal chassis. But I think it was like grossly overpriced.
are they going to let you swap out the caliber selection? Like,
Nope, they did not even mention it at all. So with
mm,
the recall, CZ basically says, "Hey, yeah, we can still swap a caliber, but you have to send it in to us
oh my God.
or a CZ center in order to do it." So it's going to be interesting.
What did you end up thinking? I didn't even I guess I haven't been very good and followed all your CZ 600 stuff, but like what was your final analysis on that or take on that
The
rifle you
gun shoots lights out. I mean, it shoots half MOA 5-shot groups out of the box with most regular ammo. The action is super smooth. This was it. The gun itself. So if you take away the marketing bullshit and the promises, it's a fantastic gun for the money if you don't plan on upgrading anything. So you have a heavier contoured barrel. The action is super smooth. It's a hybrid push feed action. I'm sorry, it's a hybrid control round feed action. So it is control round feed for most of the time, but it has like an internal claw. The stock has a lot of really base stock has a lot of nice features on it. However, it is a little bit flimsy towards the edges, but I didn't see it impacting the accuracy. Um, the trigger is pretty nice. So instead of having like a screw that adjusts the trigger, it actually has 4 preset clicks on the trigger that you can do yourself. So very user friendly. The safety, you push it down through the forearm of the
I've
grip.
shot one, I just never yeah.
And it's like the gun itself, if it kind of came out and said, "Hey, this is a really nice gun that's going to shoot really well, control round feed action, um, and you do have an interchangeable bolt on here. So if you do want to change your calibers, you'll have to send it in, but it might be possible. And this is the price." I would say, "Hey, you know what? It's a very attractive rifle for the money." Like I said, my biggest issue with it was that um, they promise that it's almost like the Cybertruck. Like they promise the world that you're going to be able to do barrel swaps and it's going to be super innovative and this and that. And that didn't come to fruition. And for the price point, it's like, yeah. But now that the gun has basically, I mean, CZ has CZ'd themselves and now they're clearancing out a lot of the models. They dropped the prices. And for $450, it's a fantastic gun that as
That's how
long
much
as
they're at? That's
yeah,
how low they're going? Wow.
I've
What
seen
now,
them.
is it it's a polymer, but is there metal pillar bedding? Is there a bedding block in there? Like, what's the bedding like in those?
It's a
Uh,
flat bottom receiver. So it does click in.
mm,
I don't believe it was metal. I don't recall. Um, but honestly, you didn't need it because everything was nice and solid. I mean, like it was actually really, really nice gun.
so
Uh,
hmm.
it's a nice gun. The problem is because it's going to be so niche and cult, and due to the safety design, you're not gonna the companies that I've talked to, they haven't had any interest in making chassis or stocks for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, a lot of them don't even know that, most people don't even know the gun exists. So there's basically that aspect to it.
Mm.
I will say there is a chassis, obviously, that somebody made, which is going to be for the Colt guns, but I'm not sure if they're exactly the same footprint, even though being the same action, or they did something a little bit different on it. But for the price, if you're looking, hey, this is a $500 gun minus a $50 mail-in rebate or whatnot, I mean, it's a great shooting gun. I do think the magazine is horrible. So the first time that I loaded 4 rounds, the bottom base plate just popped off because it was like that flimsy. Um, but if there's like an
I've been.
AICS,
Mm.
if there's an AICS conversion or something like that, it would be
Mm.
really cool. Um,
I was. Yeah, I was really impressed. I've been really impressed with their handguns, and
different, yeah,
my heritage is Czech, so I
yeah,
want to like them. But I really like their handguns. But I got the CZ 457 chassis rifle and set it up as like a 22 NRLX rifle
yep,
last year. But I haven't really honestly used it much this year. But I set it up last year and shot it, and I just like people. I don't like people defend the trigger a lot, and people say the trigger's good. My trigger sucked, and like yes, I don't get me wrong, I can adjust it. I did adjust it a little bit, but I can like get a trigger spring or I can do some stuff to it. I'm sure I can make it better, but like from a standpoint of like $1,000 rifle, and like I didn't feel like the trigger was as good as it should have been. That was my opinion on it. Like it shouldn't have, because it had some creep. It just doesn't. I don't know. I was underwhelmed by the trigger. The handguns I
yeah.
love, but
Yeah, so I mean, kind of like the insulting part with CZ was, so CZ, they're always Mauser action, control round feed. Then they decided to cheapen the manufacturing costs and become more mainstream. So they launched that push feed action, which was relatively a flop. So then they kind of came back and they redesigned this action. But even when the push feed action was pulled for the Safari Hunters, they still had the CZ 550 or like the claw style Mauser actions. When they launched the 600, the biggest thing they did was they eliminated all of the other center fire actions and rifles they did, and they put it all on the 600. And that pissed off a lot of people.
Link's asking a good question, but it's probably for the 600 versus the Tika, the 600 Alpha versus the Tika T3X Lite. I
Ooh.
don't know. What's the
So I'll
difference
bring,
between a 600 and 600 Alpha? Are they all Alpha?
so
Is that?
no, so the Alpha is the polymer stock one. Then you have the Lux, which is a wood stock one. You
Yeah,
have
I know.
you have the range. I'm sorry, the range or the
Mm.
target. I think it's the target, which is adjustable length of pull and comb height, heavier duty one. And then they have the trail, which is like this really mini action, super super cool. Um, Now the difference between the Lux and the regular one, so the CZ600 Action is actually made in two different types. We have an aluminum one, which is an alpha, and then the Lux is a steel action.
So I
So
I I did a clip on the Lux, and I've done a clip on the Alpha, but I didn't know what the other ones
yeah,
were, or if they were all considered some sort of variant of the Alpha.
yeah,
I think, I, from what you're saying, man, if you could get the 600 for $500, man, that sounds like it'd be a better deal than the Tika.
absolutely.
But if
As long
not, maybe not.
as long as you're happy with the gun the way that it comes. So with the Tikas, you have plenty of aftermarket chassis, you have aftermarket triggers,
Mm.
and you can easily, because I believe the Tika is the same thing as the Ruger American, you can swap out the barrel. It's the same it's the same fret pattern. Um, with the CZs, you're not going to be able to go to a gunsmith and do a barrel because that barrel has the reciprocal lugs in it. The lugs for the reciprocal lugs for the bolt are not in the receiver, they're in the barreled action. And I'm not sure if anyone's even messing with doing a regular action and fretting on an extension or anything else like
When
that.
when I played with the CZ 600 Alpha, the very limited, like super limited, I think I would prefer the Tika safety over it personally. But I think that I know the Tika locks the bolt in place from like a hunting standpoint. That's one thing I like. I can't remember. I don't think it did. Does it? I don't think it does lock the bolt in
Now,
place when you put it on
uh,
safe.
no, when you put it on safe, it locks the bolt. I don't recall if it has safe, but you can manipulate the bolt. I don't recall on that one.
So you're saying
Um,
it that the CZ does lock the bolt though, like from
yeah,
the okay.
correct.
Huh. So yeah, I don't know if I liked the that like push plunger safety.
You
It
get
was
used to
kind of
it, and it's
weird.
pretty cool. And it's pretty cool. The other
Hmm.
thing that they did it on there, which is a little innovative, is you have a separate lock for the magazine release. So it's a push button magazine release on the bottom, but then you can also push it forward and it locks the magazine in place so you can't inadvertently drop the magazine while you're manipulating the gun. So, like I mean, the gun has a lot of innovative features. Like I said, the biggest one was the interchangeable barrel systems, and then it was that screw up plus the overall horrible marketing launch, which is basically making it the next 224 Valkyrie. And interestingly, the other thing that kind of like I gave them crap for is the caliber choices. So across the board, um, they have a lot of calibers, but they're also missing quite a few of them. So they're not doing 6.5 Grendel or 6 Arc, but they did 6.5 Grendel in the other actions. Meanwhile, they think that 224 Valkyrie is a better idea. So if you're looking for 224 Valkyrie, you can get one in the CZ600. But you can't get 6.5 Grendel or 6 Arc. The other one with it is as you move up, so let's say, for example, if you want the Lux or the hunting one, it's not available in a lot of really good hunting cartridges. And then when you move to the range model, well, it's only available in 6 Creed or 308. It's not available in 6.5 Creedmoor. It's not available in 6.5 PRC. It's not available um, in almost anything else like small and cool that you would want to have it. And then the Trail, which is like this little nice compact pistol thing, it's only available in mini action. It's only available in 7.62 by 39 and 223, which is not bad. But like, where's the 300 Blackout? Like, I mean, like that would be really, really cool. A small little hunting gun for it. So it's little stupidity on CZ's part, and it kind of feels like they have engineers who can design a good product, but then like the make it sucky department says, "Hey, make sure that this is good for Europe, but make sure it's sucky for the United States." So it's
Well,
almost like
I
it
see
almost
it.
feels like passive aggressive. Or if they
Mm.
truly are not being passive aggressive towards the American owners, then their marketing department and their executives deserve to be fired for not paying attention to the trends in the largest firearms market in the world.
I think a lot of guns coming out of Europe are that way. I think that like so like the Benelli Lupo um is
Mm-hmm.
is there's awesome things about it, and then there's things about it you're like, what in the heck? And then there's not the caliber selection, it doesn't have any of the PRCs or anything like that. So it's more like European, like what you'd see in Europe. I think the design of like the sleek, thin fore end and the stock is very European. It seems to be designed very much for like, people hunting boar in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
where they're making quick shots, almost like a straight pull or something. Easy to grab, easy to walk around with, but kind of not typical for the United States. For a gun over $1,000, we'll put it that way. But the thing shoots good. I mean, that thing can shoot lights out. The trigger's fantastic. Um, but the reason I bring it up is because partly I was just editing videos on stuff on it that are going to come out. But I was like, that fore end, the little sling attachment point, and then the stock and the butt stock end is just like hideously pathetic for a gun of that price. Because I think they originally go in for like 15 or 16, and now they're getting marked down a lot of places. But and they just literally have like a molded in hole to put your sling on, and it's like a Remington 770 reminiscent of that. Like it's that bad. And I'm like, and then the plastic on the plastic pieces just feels wrong, but it has a alloy. The receiver mounts to an alloy piece of metal, like almost like a mini chassis, but it's exposed. So it's like, and then the plastic furniture. So it kind of is like, well, the foundation's still good. And like, it's kind of cool because you can adjust length of pole with spacers. You can even adjust like the cant and all kinds of weird stuff with it. Because they have a spacer that goes between the buttstock and the receiver, or the alloy chassis, which you can also adjust like the angle and stuff. It's kind of weird, but yeah, it's just weird that they had those pathetic sling mounting points, and then the plastic furniture is kind of weird, and then the whole design is just very like European, and the caliber selection and the design of the rifle just seems weird. But it reminds me though of a Ruger American bolt, the actual bolt itself. It's 3 lugs. It's clanky. It's loud. But it's like they took the Ruger American bolt and they like polished it though, like so you didn't have to go polish. So it doesn't have the zipper sound. It's all polished, but it's very similar. The bolt handle is totally different, but it's cool. Weird how similar it is.
Right. So Ryan has a solution for being completely locked down. Use dry graphite. It helped. So for getting it a little bit more traction. The T3240CS, it is not removable, so the ball head is integrated in there, but you can add a bunch of different accessories on top. All right, so Alaska water we discussed. Is there anything? Didn't I just? I thought we just covered it, or like did my chat just skip?
I thought you already went over that.
Whoa, it just completely skipped. Okay, sorry, I'm going back to it, but no. So to answer the question between the Tika and the CZ, I would say if you want to upgrade things, the Tikas are really nice. But for the money, if you're just kind of getting into it, I think if you can pick it up for $500, I think it's like grab a gun or something like that. That would be really, really good. All right, so James, the 2020 waypoint in 7 PRC. So the big thing, obviously, with 7 PRC, I like the cartridge. It has to be a long action, and the issue that you have with it is Springfield is not yet making the 2020 in a long action. I did, however, I do believe that the 7 PRC was designed to fit the Tika actions. So I'm not sure if Tika has a 7 PRC, but that could be a good way to go.
Not yet. They don't have Tika doesn't have one yet, but
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. Maybe they'll come out in 2025 with it. It'll be the 2025 instead of 2020. I'm being silly.
That is interesting, but I would say if Tika makes a 300 Win Mag, then you can easily just swap the barrel on that and just use and get somebody to make you a 7 PRC barrel for a Tika, and you're done there. Is that a train?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow, it is so loud.
That's nothing. Like I'm literally in a basement with acoustical foam in the middle of the house, like not even, and there's no window, and it's that loud. Like if you're upstairs, it shakes your bed.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. Okay, I'm back to where it was. I lost a rubber foot. Maybe it was my. Okay, so Ryan and company are going to be there. James cannot go to SHOT Show.
Proof Research is listing 7 PRC prefits for Tika, supposedly.
There you go.
I'm looking it up right now.
There you go. All right, so kind of on the topic of fact checkers. Okay, so there's a comment by 9-Hole Reviews on one of Petey's impact shooting from one of his videos that he published yesterday, and we're like, oh, we had this video and like it was good for 15 days. We got hundreds of thousands of views on it, and then after 15 days, it just went dead. So YouTube must be silent banning us now. So basically, the way that the video is going to work is when you publish a video, YouTube is going to send it out to a portion of your audience. If your portion of the audience responds well, it sends it to a bigger portion of your audience. If they respond well, it sends it to a bigger portion of the audience. Then once it goes through your audience, then it'll start sending it out to other people. But then they basically stop. They try to find the right video for the right audience. And if the video basically goes 15 days, it primarily means that they sent it out to everybody in your audience. But then when they started testing it with bigger audiences, it wasn't receptive. So then they stopped promoting it. That's all it is. They're not shadow banning you. They're not hating on you. Um, the issue that you do have is like, so kind of like with some of the algorithms and the rules and kind of talking about like the Indian fact checkers. So the issue is when you come out and the whole demonetization thing. The thing is, when you have the video come out, you have what's called self-certification. So you can basically say, yeah, this video is about this topic, and then you make the determination whether you feel it's going to be safe for advertisers or not. And they generally agree with you and give you that status. However, after a couple of days, the algorithms themselves, they might pick something up and it might demonetize the video. So, and that's where people say, oh, this video was monetized, and then it was demonetized by YouTube. It was the freaking algorithms because you probably said something about ARs or something else. So it flagged it. You then have to go back in there and hit a button and request a manual review. Now, most of the time, it'll be approved, but sometimes it's not. Once again, YouTube doesn't hate you. It goes back to the people who manually review the videos. Oftentimes, they don't understand the gun world because we're not in America, and in a lot of places overseas, they don't understand guns and they think it's all evil, and they don't know the difference between the suppressor and a muzzle brake. So the way that we've as a group figured out around this is when you upload a video, you upload multiple copies and you want to make sure that it gets flagged for being limited monetization. So then you can request a manual review. And once the manual review goes through and it says, yeah, this is okay, that status generally sticks to it. That's what you have to do. And most people, and unfortunately, what I will say is that a lot of the people who have successful YouTube channels, they don't know how YouTube actually freaking works. Now, does YouTube shadow ban certain topics or suppress certain topics from search results? Yes, but not generally the gun community, because we have some amazing, valuable people to whom companies can advertise to. So, yeah, that's my topic on that. All right, we discussed what a total toady worm hunt. Hot Todd whiskey, two fingers, lemon juice, and honey. Stir, microwave till warm. Oh my god! I think as people.
So you think? Do you? Are you stuck? Oh,
No,
do you
I'm here.
think so? Like, there's a lot of people, gun tubers. There's a lot of everybody on YouTube though that purposely uses drama around demonetization or limited monetization, or my channel's going to get shut down just to like make money or grow their audience.
Oh yeah.
I think that I don't know that I necessarily say it's all bad. I just think that's some of what goes on. I think that like a lot of times people say they're demonetized and they really are just limited monetization. Like they just got a video and they
Yeah,
kind of like
that's
exaggerate.
99% of the time.
I think everybody exaggerates, just some people more than others as well. So like I'm not saying trying to hate on anybody. I think that's just some of what goes on.
Yeah.
I think that like I don't personally I don't know I don't know what YouTube does. I don't know if they shadow ban anybody or don't because I don't freaking work there. But I I don't think they necessarily do shadow ban gun tubers. I think that like I think that we do fight a battle that not every niche will fight, which
Mm-hmm.
sucks, but it's part of what we do. And I don't agree with it, but it's the reality we live in.
Oh.
I think that Facebook and TikTok absolutely do.
Yes,
I know
absolutely.
Facebook has literally sent me messages saying because of gun posts,
Yeah.
saying not only have they put me in Facebook jail millions of times, but they also said we will not show your stuff to
Mm-hmm.
audiences like they've literally sent me messages saying they will not promote or share my materials outside of like if somebody goes to my page and like that knows me and goes and looks for it. Like they're not going to share it. And TikTok is the worst of them all, in my opinion. So like, are there places that absolutely do restrict you? Yes. I just don't think that it's that much that like I don't think YouTube necessarily does things they're not telling people as much. Actually, I think they're even though I can't stand them at times and they piss me off, I don't think they're actually the best at
Oh,
transparency and telling you out of like all the platforms, which is
yep.
something you don't really hear, but that's actually pretty true.
Yeah.
I think Twitter hasn't been restricting very much stuff since Elon Musk took over, which is nice. And Threads, it's like Meta hasn't caught up with Threads yet. Like you can do anything on Threads right now,
Oh.
which is kind of cool. But I'm sure that'll change at some point.
Oh. So here's the thing. I haven't read the terms for Facebook and Instagram, but for TikTok, in the freaking rules, it says gun content is not allowed. Meanwhile, gun tubers go on TikTok and say, well, TikTok banned my account. Well, no shit.
What I do
What the,
find interesting is that places like TikTok in the past, not necessarily now, but like almost all these places collectively, from what I've seen, have allowed insane amounts of like Ukrainians killing and bombing Russians left and right, like a lot,
yep,
like real footage, folks. But I post a ethical kill of a whitetail that doesn't even show blood, and it'll get restricted monetized, we'll say, or it'll get like flagged for something, right? Or a different platform like Facebook might even say nope and delete it because
yep,
Facebook will straight up delete my stuff. They have done it many times, but killing people in another country is all good as long as our country and our social agenda agrees with it. You know, like
yep.
our media machine is promoting it because they want us to all be part of it and support Biden and all that. You know what I mean? Like if something aligns with the agenda of this country, it's amazing how acceptable it is, no matter what it is, to on these platforms. It's hilarious.
So what I'll say, so I went to a conference in New York City last week, and I actually met with some YouTube executives and some TikTok people, and they basically say, yeah, with TikTok, it's 100% against our rules, um, gun content. So basically, don't be surprised. Now, what some channels will do, even if it's demonetized, so the way that the TikTok algorithms work, to them, the value, obviously, we're not doing it for whether the content whether the contents can be monetized or not. They need the views, because then they are going to use that for sponsored posts. And honestly, a lot of the bigger YouTubers, if they're doing it right, the demonetization or the monetization, the paycheck that actually comes from YouTube is generally going to be less than 10% of the total income that they're making from being on YouTube to begin with. So yeah, I do agree with you 100% that a lot of the people, it's almost like gun owners will shoot first, ask questions later. So if somebody pops up, like, it's going to be news, it's going to be buzzworthy, so we're going to start bitching about it, and then if it dies off, then it basically dies off. But the whole monetization thing, it's like we love basically complaining about it, but there's plenty of money on YouTube for gun creators, and everybody has their own sites. They sell merchandise, they make money with super chats. Then they basically use that as a platform to, I mean, freaking run for House of Representatives, as some people are doing. Other people use it for roles in movies. They'll have brand deals with a lot of, let's put it this way. If you're a larger content creator in the gun space, and let's say a Springfield Army or somebody contacts you and they want you to do a review on a gun, it's going to be a gun. You're making the vast majority of your money is going to be the paycheck that comes along with doing that gun review. And like, for example, like, remember those established titles and all of those 30-second Clash of Titans, League of Legends, all those video games, or NordVPN. Like, a larger YouTuber for like one of those 30-second spots, they might be charging anywhere between 50 to 100,000 for a 30-second spot in the video.
You talking about like
That's
Demolition Ranch and stuff, like
any
Demolition
of
Ranch
them.
Yeah.
Anybody. I mean, that's really where the money is. It's not the actual YouTube ads.
I thought it was in crypto.
Oh, we're past crypto now.
Everybody was shilling. I had like at least no less than like 10, probably 10 different crypto companies, and like probably 50% of the emails were legit, wanting me to promote. Even when I only had like 30,000 subs, they wanted me to promote their crypto, and that's like I say yes to a lot of stupid shit. I didn't say yes to that. Like I was like, no, this stuff is just like you could tell it was like straight up like dirty. Like you were just FTX and the heck, like you were just going to be shilling some really shady stuff.
Yep.
But
All right. Gun question. So BSF uses the tension cap. There's air gap between the carbon fiber and the steel. That's when we were talking about that.
yeah,
All right. So Christensen, 6.5 PRC, takes 60 plus rounds before any accuracy. So this is actually a topic we've discussed between Christensen and Bergara. Want to talk about it?
yeah, I don't like Christensen.
Or and accuracy issues with your Bergara?
Did we talk about Bergara now too?
Well, we talk about
There's only
Christensen.
two. There's only been two rifles I've ever had like what I would consider major issues with, or I should say two brands, Christensen and Bergara. And I still, there's a place in my heart for Bergara. I like hated them, then I forgave them, and now I'm kind of hating them again. But then I shot it again, and now it's a little bit better. So I'm really like I'm all over the place with Bergara because like the first one I had was a lemon through and through, never could get it to shoot. The second one's awesome. I still have it. I'm gonna do more videos on that. Like I wanted to shoot some ELR with it, like just recreational, not competition, because it's not made for that. But like I want to shoot out really far with it. Then I got this the Ridge Carbon Wilderness. Since our last live stream, I actually took it out with their recommended ammo, and it is capable of sub MOA, but it's still like not as easy or as consistent as I would like. And to go through that many different ammunitions and that much time and money, to me, is still not necessarily acceptable. So I wouldn't say it was necessarily a full-on lemon, but like definitely did not meet expectations. The first one for sure, the first one years ago for sure, a lemon in my opinion. But and then Christensen, actually the accuracy not too horrible, but ejects brass like straight up. And that's like a problem that's been reported in probably, I don't even know how many Christensens. So there's been accuracy issues, there's ejection issues, there's extraction, like the list goes on with Christensen. I mean, you can hit up any forum and just, there's issue after, and my issue, lots of people have had the issue have where it just shoots it like straight up. And so what happens when it hits the scope, windage turret, or it hits the scope base. And then the people that are diehard Christensen fans, guess what they say? Oh, that's the scope's fault. That's the base's fault. It's like, bro, you're literally supposed to put a scope on this gun. It didn't come with iron sights, dumbass. Like,
so what's the solution?
The solution is that you either send it in and they fix it, which I need to do.
So it's an ejector issue?
Or supposedly you can take out the plunger ejectors, and like I've heard different things from like changing the tension of like just like deforming the spring or whatever to like polishing it up so it slides smoother in and out. Like if it's like there's a little, I haven't done anything yet. I've shot it a bunch. I shot it more than one range trip. I know the problem, but I admittedly haven't sent it in. I hate sending guns in. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it because it's a big time consuming pain in the butt. So this winter when I'm bored, I might actually mess with it and see if I can just get the timing of the ejection to where it's going out the side. Cause that's what it is. It goes like almost straight up, not quite straight, but dang near close straight. And it's not normal. It's not the scope's fault.
You know, if the scope wasn't there, this wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah. You know what? Like, I got a car from GM once. It didn't run right. They said it's because I put tires on it. So it's obviously the tires problem. That's about the logic we got going on here. So,
but so basically kind of like where it kind of goes back to, it's not surprising if you talk to anybody in the firearms industry that knows a lot of the guns. Christensen, when they were very small niche and boutique, they did a really good job, but then they really started growing, and I would say you had a lot of growing pains. And then same thing with Bergara. So Bergara, the problem is it's almost like a lot of the barrels are made in Spain. It's almost like siesta time. So like they either have really, really good barrels or they have like really shitty barrels. And it seems like there's very little in between. So
Yeah, I've never
it's
had
like
a
if you
problem with
can,
the Bergara. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I've never had a problem with anything but accuracy with a Bergara.
Yeah.
So it's like I've never had like ejection, extraction. They feel great. They've always felt great. But I've had accuracy. So like the first one never could shoot. Like it just was, or I shouldn't say it did shoot a couple times, but it was terrible. It was like truly. This one, I feel like if you pick the perfect ammunition out of 10 different ammunitions and break it in for 100 rounds, maybe we'll finally get there. But to me, that's still not acceptable in today's market. But
Cool. James, I don't know if Fries makes set triggers. The issue I'm having is the trigger isn't fully resetting after shooting, and if you rack the bolt, it'll go on the next trigger pull. What I would say is, have you taken a video and depending on, have you tracked it down to a particular ammo possibly? It almost seems like the gun might be short stroking and just enough to eject the brass, but not enough to fully reset the trigger. I would check that. Yeah. Check that. Or possibly, if you want, just buy a set of replacement springs and just do that. Or just contact Rise. I'm sure they'll do it fine. Or email me. I'll bring it up to them. Okay. Trigger Tech triggers. Trigger Tech is pretty nice triggers. I haven't played with their AR triggers. But basically, I think Trigger Tech at this point is almost kind of like the same thing as Geisley. You're paying a lot for the name. You're quite welcome. All right.
what's your favorite bolt action trigger?
For what?
What's your favorite like aftermarket bolt action trigger? Like Trigger Tech or Timony, or like what brand is like what out of the which
That's
one
like
is your
picking. That's like
favorite?
asking you to pick your favorite child. So like I guess what makes it easier is the fact that for certain guns you don't have a lot of choices. So for example, on the Rugers, you only really have Timney. I do like Timney two-stage triggers. I like two-stage triggers. But I do like on the 700s, or actually for the Ruger Precision, I really do like the Trigger Tech triggers. But I mean, I haven't had too many issues with Timney either. And honestly, so I mean, they've sent a couple of triggers for the channel. I've been a fan of them. I did play with a couple of jar triggers. I do like them, but because they're a smaller company, I don't think they QC long term as much as others. So after a certain time, I end up developing issues with the trigger. And that's for 2 out of the 3 jarred triggers that I have. Okay, cool. So we answered this. CZ600 Alpha versus the T3X. Are you two possibly going to go platforms like local so you can trip Firearms on live? So actually, yes. One of the things I was planning with is doing streams on Telegram. And I tried streaming to Telegram, but there has to be a certain setting that is checked. So on Odyssey and Telegram, I'll be able to actually play with the Firearms on there. Steven? But Steven doesn't live stream. He shows up as a guest on everybody else's live stream.
Yeah, pretty much. I live stream like once a blue moon, so almost never. But that might change. Like I keep saying that, but I do mean it. I think it's going to change. It's just I did like 1 month. I did 4 in 1 month. What, like a year ago or so? Maybe more than a year ago. And then I've done one here and there. But yeah, I think this winter I might kick off some. We'll see.
Nice.
What do you think about jewel triggers?
So I've played with them. I like them. I like quite a bit of them. I know friends, people who like Bix and Andy triggers. Um, I think the jewel triggers are more prevalent in the F class community. It's almost kind of like depending on which sport you shoot, there's going to be certain brands that are going to be more prevalent there. So Trigger Tech is very dominant in PRS, NRL, Hunter, things like that, along with Bix and Andy. But if you go to like F class, it's a lot of jewel triggers. It's a lot of jewel. It's a lot of Timney triggers.
Hmm.
So a friend of mine, he swears by jewel triggers, and they're not bad. But yeah.
My least favorite two-stage trigger is the Timney Kelvin Elite. I had one. I hated it. I like Trigger Tech. I love jewel triggers. Like I would probably put them up there. Like would be like first choice, except for the trigger blades on everyone I've ever. I don't know if they make different trigger blades, but I know everyone I've ever seen is like a super thin trigger blade, which I wouldn't prefer for like hunting. But I love the way they feel otherwise. I don't know that I like the way they adjust though and stuff like that as much as like a trigger tech super easy to like mess with. But
Very cool.
Steve from Wyoming, how's it going, man?
Munition Works, thank you for joining. First time. That pretzel's gone. The pretzels are really good. Love the breakdown of latest guys you did. All right. Hop from TGC. No, not TGC. The Shorts channel. My neighbor purchased the Christensen Arms Messen 300 per C. Asked me if I want to send a few for the first time at the range in New Hampshire. I'll pass. Ouch. 6-pound unit in that caliber. Nah. Now, you shoot a bunch of those as a hunter. Do you actually shoot your guns for fun like that or no?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I have like 10 300 PRCs. I don't know. And most of them are hunting rifles. Actually, all of them are, I think, hunting rifles. And most of them are like lightweight hunting rifles. So yeah, I'll shoot 60, 80 rounds of 300 PRC out of a hunting rifle in one day. I'm not saying I would. I think if it wasn't for the channel, I'd probably do half that. Like if I didn't have a reason to as much, but I do shoot them a lot. And now I have muzzle brakes or suppressors on all of them, I think, at this point. But yeah, my shoulder will hurt and be bruised for about a week sometimes afterwards, though. Not really bruised because I don't bruise, but it'll be sore.
Okay. So the question: how long can two men talk about the CZ527? 0. We did not talk one iota about the CZ527. We discussed the CZ600. Now, the CZ600 is a fantastic gun that's marketed the wrong way. Now, in all seriousness, it's like I've done 3 videos on the CZ600. I give the company a lot of crap, but I think the gun, if you just look at the gun as it is, it's a very nice gun. I would put it up against everything else. And now that I've had plenty of time for my hate to subdue, it's a fantastic gun. I would definitely recommend it. Like, honestly, instead of like somebody buying a Bergara B14 HMR or something like that, I would say get a CZ600 Alpha for half the money because
Link
you're not
asked
going
a
to.
good question. Link's
Cool.
asking a good question.
I think we're catching up to there. Proof research. It is. 224 Valkyrie, for all intents and purposes, is dead. Some people don't want to accept it yet. It did have good possibilities, but they screwed it up. They screwed up that launch. Partly Sierra's fault. That's actually a really interesting story about like why that caliber completely failed. And now that you have 22 Grendel for all 22 Grendel and 22 Creedmoor, it's going to bring back a lot of those issues as well. There's only like 1 or 2 companies that I've seen that can do a really good 224 Valkyrie barrel. It had a lot of potentials as a cartridge, but they just completely killed the launch for it. Just like You know what? That's a great comparison. C600, the new Thompson Center Compass. I would say I wouldn't say the Compass. I would say the Venture because I think it's going to be a little bit more equivalent in the price point. But the 600 versus the Venture, the 600 is a far more superior gun. It feels more premium. Like I said, literally, I would stack up the action on the CZ600 against the Springfield 2020 and others like it at any point in time,
The
and it's actually nicer.
the TC Compass and TC Venture would be trash compared to the CZ
Yeah.
600. The Venture shoots good, or did they when they made them, and it wasn't bad. The TC Compass could shoot well as well, but that thing was made like really chintzy. Like, oh my gosh, just wow.
Yeah, so basically that was the comment that it kind of like irked me a little bit. So that was the one about in Viber having discussion about whether gun channels love bitching about stuff and about being shadow banned. Now, if the video doesn't blow up, it's because our content is just not that good. Or it's like it's only really cool for, let's put this way. It's like I think anybody, if you talk to any gun tuber who actually in our group or knows anything, when we're looking at a product, we pretty much know from the beginning roughly what we can expect in terms of views and engagement on a video. And then it's about how good you perform to your potential on that. But for example, like I know if I do a comparison video between two guns, or let's say it's a Glock versus Springfield or whatever, that video is going to do far more than, hey, look, I just put together this build on 22 Grendel and it's a non-SAMI spec or this or that for something that no one actually searched for and the vast majority of the audience is not going to care about. Or I know, for example, like if I just did a hunting video, none of you guys are actually going to watch it. Or if I just did like a video on the best accessory from a no-name company, it's not going to get the views. Once it reaches the audience, the people who watch the channel, it's not going to get past beyond that. So it's, but we just love bitching.
I think that, like, I mean, I love bitching, but I think that, like, it's not necessarily a shadow ban as much as like YouTube does niche you. I do believe that to some degree based on your content to some degree. But like if you publish something like you were saying outside of your what you've been niched as, what your audience, what they promote your content to, who they promote your content to, the video is going to flop. It's just going to flop. And then occasionally, like a video you think will do really good that is applicable will kind of flop. And then one that you think is trash does really good. So there's outliers, but I don't think it's because of shadow banning. I think it's just like the way the algorithm's working
Yeah.
and things like that. Sometimes it's like maybe more your fault. I know you like to like be very direct, but I think sometimes it's just like there is a little bit of like BS luck. I don't know. Like there's the algorithm, maybe not luck, but like the algorithm, like for whatever reason, that video didn't do very good. Now you can always do a better job. Like certainly, and all of us can always do a better job. But I mean, there are videos that you're like, wow, this one should have done really well, and it didn't. Well, it's probably just like maybe it was an off time, off day. Maybe there was something going on in the world, something else in major media, and people weren't clicking on your video the first 24 hours, and so the algorithm's like, yeah, whatever, doesn't matter, don't like it. But I don't think it's shadow batting.
Yeah. And like I said, and most people don't realize is that there is actually, let's put this way, if YouTube wanted to ban all gun content, they can do it with the stroke of a pen. They can hit it with a stroke of a few keys. They can absolutely do that. I've talked to a number of YouTube executives at conferences and like, look, this is actually like, there's nothing wrong with gun content. The problem that YouTube finds themselves in, we're between a rock and a hard place because there is gun content which is valuable to a lot of people, and then there's certain advertisers who don't want to be associated with it. So it's how do you what and because you can't have every single gun content video be manually viewed by a human, it's how do you put the processes in place so that the advertisers who don't want to be associated with gun content are not associated with gun content. And sometimes those algorithms are going to be quite a bit more strict. And there are issues, but if they wanted it gone, it would be in the terms of service. If YouTube wanted it gone, they would not go back and actually work with gun creators to redefine a lot of the policies that didn't make sense. I'm also on the YouTube beta or feedback group, and like, so I do like one-on-one interviews with YouTube. Uh, I wouldn't say necessarily executives, but basically people who come up with policies and people who come up with new features. I'm in those beta groups, and we do like hour-long Zoom call, well, Google Meet calls with them to talk about the features. And at no point in time anybody had any issues with me being a gun channel. And when they actually beta the stuff on the channel with the stats, like, they're all fine with it. It's not Facebook, it's not TikTok, where it is literally written within the terms of service that they wanted to be gone. There are a lot of actually conservative people in YouTube as well, and there are a couple of YouTubers who literally work closely with YouTube when it comes to firearms policies for YouTube. So they're not. I mean, like, there are issues that sometimes do come up, but generally those issues are, let's put it this way. Remember, like, in the beginning of SHOT Show, when everybody was like running with their heads cut off, that everyone got strikes for having suppressor content? You were one of those. I was one of them. Almost everybody at SHOT Show. And because it happened in SHOT Show, people were like, oh, look, it's like YouTube and Google, they knew that all the gun tubers are going to be at SHOT Show, so they decided to send a message. No, because 3 months earlier, they explicitly, oh, sorry, my camera battery died, but I'll just finish this thought and then I'll switch out the battery. So 3 months prior to that, YouTube went out of their way and they explicitly made suppressor content advertiser friendly for full monetization. What actually happened was there is a new algorithm that was put in place that incorrectly, it basically became a little aggressive, and they started picking up. So basically, when somebody would open up a suppressor or thread it on, it deemed it to be modification, and automatically a whole bunch of strikes went out. So all of this happened before anybody at YouTube who's a human who actually came out with the policies that they wanted the AI to enforce. They didn't even know that this was happening. And this is straight from the horse's mouth from them. So we make a lot of shit up. It's like we tried. It's like it's much the same thing. Like what happened when the SIG P320 was found out to be not drop safe. I know of a couple of YouTubers talking to some of the gun companies. So these YouTubers, because they wanted to be drama queens, they went out, they modified their existing firearms, not SIGs, so that they can make a video. Hey, look, this non-SIG P320 is also not drop safe. They would do that. So food for thought. All right, I'm going to change the battery out real quick. I'm not sure if you can still stay on or not, but you can. If not, then you can tell us where to find you. And Airborne Arms is that company that I was thinking of for 224 Valkyrie barrels. They're one of the ones that can actually do it properly. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to change out the battery in the camera.
Well, we got old Steve from Wyoming. He's got a pretty cool YouTube channel. He shoots guns, but mostly it's really good fishing content, saltwater fishing content. So check him out, you guys. Pulse for bucks, MOA or MRAD? MOA. MOA. That's where I don't, for whatever reason, being self-taught, that's where I started and that's where I've stuck because now it's what I know. But I do have MRAD scopes, just not the majority of them, and I do prefer MOA. But MRAD, I like the 6.5 Creedmoor cheat with MRAD, and actually you can use it with other calibers too. It's not just 6.5 Creedmoor, where you like, what is it? The yardage minus two MRAD. Is that correct? So if you dial like, if it's 600 yards, you dial 4 MRAD. Does that sound right? Max or Slav?
Wait, what did I miss? What was the question?
First I was asked, are you MOA or
Yes.
MRAD? And I said MOA. Now I was talking about the MRAD cheat. I wish I had, is that you just deduct 2 from the yardage? And that's how many MRAD you dial?
I believe somebody actually came out with that, but I think that only works up to about 600 yards or so. It doesn't work past that.
Well, that's basically anything ballistic. I mean, like, yeah. So like, but anyway, for hunting purposes though, I kind of wish that I had known about that when I first got started, because maybe I'd be MRAD just based on that alone. Because I've tried it with like other calibers and it's worked pretty close to with MRAD.
Hmm.
So like, it's not, everybody says 6.5 Creedmoor hack with MRAD. It's not just six, like anything that's close ballistically, it's going to work out to like 400 yards for hunting purposes. Pretty good little trick. Anyways,
Drew, by
feelings
2024,
right.
all gun stuff will be removed. I absolutely disagree with that. That is absolutely not happening. Okay. That's for you, buddy. For the price, it should not take 60 plus rounds, in my opinion, to come into accuracy. What is your
Talking about the
expectation?
Bergara?
Yeah. Christensen.
Oh, Christensen. Well, Christensen wasn't the accuracy issues for me personally. I've heard of him. Christensen was the one ejecting the brass straight up. So Christensen was, which in my opinion is almost a bigger issue because it double feeds. Then it double feeds, and you can't even hunt with it. Like it's not even 2 MOA. It's useless at that point, in my opinion. But the Bergara, it probably took 100 rounds and then 10, not 10, 7 different ammunitions for it to me even start to get sub MOA, and it's still not shooting that great, which is not good. My expectation is that within 20 to 30 rounds, you should be seeing a 75% of groups be MOA or sub MOA, which is actually not very, I mean, that's not a super high standard. I'd say within 20 to 25 round or 20 to 25 rounds, you should 75% of the time be seeing a MOA or sub MOA group.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty easy expectation in today. Like you can hit that with a Ruger American or a Savage
Okay.
Axis most of the time
Easily.
So, and then, so yeah, but that allows some room for like, okay, you have a bad day, you're not shooting great, whatever.
Yep. Grendel is a cool cartridge. There'll be videos on that soon. Ryan, thank you again for bringing me out there. That was a fantastic range. Was it the Christensen carbon fiber barrels having some splitting issues? I don't recall on that. Out of all of them, I believe Christensen is one of the ones that can actually do carbon fiber really, really well. Their issue was just accuracy, consistency, and some of the gun issues. And over 20 Ranger 22 is like not great either. It's a lot of QC stuff, but I don't recall anything on.
I think Lithgow Arms, the one out of Australia years ago, I think they pretty much. I know that Legacy Sports International was the exclusive importer for them in the United States for a minute, and I was about to get a couple, and then they had some major issues, and they pretty much disappeared in the United States market because of them. And Legacy dropped them, like they wouldn't import them, and I think it was something to do with splitting with their barrels. But I don't think they were carbon fiber, were they? Or maybe they were.
Yeah, they did.
I think they were carbon fiber. 22. They had a 22.
Yeah,
that was carbon fiber.
Now, who does who does the carbon fiber barrels for Howa?
Oh gosh. Well, that's a good question.
Yeah, can you talk about it or no?
No, I don't know. Well, so like Legacy Sports, the exclusive importers, told me to my face that Howa's making them. I don't know that I believe them, but I don't know that I have a reason to disbelieve them other than, wow, like all of a sudden Howa's making carbon fiber barrels, never done it, and they're doing a great job. Because the one I have has been awesome, like shot lights out. So I don't know. It doesn't have any markings or indications that I can be like, yeah, this is for sure made by somebody else. But it doesn't really say to me that it's made by them either. Like I just don't know. They're saying that they're making them. That's what Legacy Sports is saying, and I can't get a hold of Howa directly. Yep. Like I can't get a hold of them in Japan and be like, maybe I could, maybe I should try. Actually, I've never really tried that hard to be like, hey, can somebody speak English? Can I talk to somebody? Maybe I should. I've never tried.
Ask him at Chacho. I'm sure there'll probably be someone from Howa at Chacho.
Yeah, everybody there last year was just Legacy Sports. It was all Legacy Sports people. So, but like, yeah, maybe maybe I'll try to push it again. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe they are. I mean, Hella makes great stuff, so maybe they are.
Yep. Steven could fry eggs as a short, and I'd watch it, dude. You should try that as a joke just to see how many views it would get. It'd probably get a couple of million views now that your shorts have really picked up.
I did a caribou backstrap cooking short, and I actually spent a significant amount of effort trying to make it really nice. I released it like a week ago. It did all right, but it didn't do that good. It didn't do like my bolt action content does. And it's somewhat related because it was caribou, you know, hunting, and I put decent amount of time and effort into making it that short. Of course, it'll never make me any money because shorts don't really make money. So, I mean, 3 cents every 1,000 views if you're lucky. But are you looking it up?
No, I'm looking at something else. Okay. Oh yeah. So the 527. Just wanted to make sure, like, I wasn't 100% familiar with those model numbers. It's discontinued, so I mean that's the one downside to it. I did want to get a 527 before. It's a really cool mini action, but you're not going to get support for it anymore. So just basically keep that in mind.
If you get it from Shills, ask them if it's like
it's discontinued 2 years ago. It was discontinued 2 years ago.
Yeah, but I don't know if ask Shills if they'll honor the return policy. Shills is the only major gun company I've ever known where they will let you return a firearm after shooting and using it, like up to like months afterwards if you're unhappy, as long as you've done no permanent modifications. And by permanent, I mean like threaded the barrel or something crazy. So they're really like Shills is really good in that regard. So, but I would say go for it if it's a good price, the gun itself.
Yep. 22 GT is going to be an interesting one to watch. I've shot 22 GT here locally by one of the Accuracy International sponsored shooters. With the suppressor, it was like shooting a staple gun. It was like a louder 22. It was like, it felt really, really good. I'm quite interested in that. How about Tanfoglio 10mm Witness that weighs like 98 pounds? Love that unit, but as an EDC, heck no. Bruised ribs, just walking in the park, heavy, but shoots great. Yep. The only thing you have to watch for with the Tanfo, which are basically copies of the CZ75, those frames were never designed for anything more than 9mm. So you had a lot of 40s and 45s where you have slide cracking. So honestly, if you want a I would say if you want a 10mm, just get a Glock or some 1911s, to be honest. Okay, there we go. Now I know why my laptop was like flickering on and off. The power cable was unplugged. 6.5 Creedmoor is like half an MRAT per 100 yards. Yep. Kestrel re-released a shot counter. Not that I want one, just wondering why the hype. I did not know they have a shot counter. Okay. Ryan, thank you for chiming in. So only carbon fiber issue was glue issues when the barrels got run in competition.
So run it really hot, really long, and a lot.
Yeah, I think we're catching up to the comments. Thanks for the advice. Being discontinued is definitely a downside. Yeah. A lot of the CZ people, I mean, so I do think there's going to be a collectible market for it, but the 527, because I believe it was like for push feed action, it's like not a lot of people are collecting those, but there's definitely a market for CZ Mauser style actions. Yay. Okay.
Why does it say micro? It says the 527 was a micro Mauser action.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, no, it is that one. Okay, so it's the mini action. It's basically, it was done for 7.62 by 39. They had 6.5 Grendel 223. It was super fun action to run. Now the 600 is available in a small mini action as well. It's basically, it was like their answer to the Hawa 1500 mini action. There we go. Awesome. All right, gentlemen. Unless there's basically going to be other questions, missed some comments, but I apologize for that. It is already, we've been on for almost 2.5 hours. I know Steven has got to wrap up and do his stuff, and then it's midnight here, and I still have some stuff I got to do. But this is actually really good, kind of getting into the swing of things. We covered most of the stuff, and we'll go from there. So this week I'll probably have 1 or 2 videos. We'll definitely have some shorts. I will post updates from when we shoot the Springfield 2020 rimfire. That'll be fun, and we'll go from there. So, Steven, thank you very much for joining me, as always, my friend. You're like very reliable to come on to if I want a guest. Maybe one day you'll do your own live streams and we can join you on yours.
Probably never. Yeah, maybe this winter. We'll see. I'm gonna be going for those really top tier people though, like just using million subscribers only. There's the only guess I can have.
Well, you got the pockets to pay him. Actually, I think you have
Oh,
experience.
not anymore.
Did you play with the MDT field stock yet or no?
I don't even remember. I don't think so. Was it at SHOT Show?
That's a new one, I think. The new, cheaper entry level one.
You talking about the wait.
MDT field stock.
Oh man, I don't think so. No. I'm looking it up so I can make sure. Yeah,
as long as you're not wrong-handed, GRS is fine. I do wish that basically we had some M-lock on the forend. But basically we would have to get all new molds and things like that. The only thing, other thing I don't like about the GRS is that you have to use your existing bottom metal. A lot of the chassis, for instance, and I believe the MDT field stock works the same way, where it's already embedded to convert to AICS pattern mags. That'd be my preference. But with the GRS, it's a good stock for what it is, for the value that you're getting. It's absolutely really, really, really nice. But I'd probably go, honestly, for a lot of cases, it's like I would go KRG Bravo.
I like the GRS. So, like, what do you think of that GRS org?
I have one.
The bedding, though, like the bedding, that like plastic 2 pieces sandwiched together, like chintzy ass looking bedding.
So they're basically
where the receiver goes in there. Mm-hmm.
So basically, what they're saying is that it is strong enough, and you don't need to worry about it.
Okay. I actually have a bunch of upcoming videos and tests I'm going to be doing on it. Not yet. They're not even filmed yet, but they're like, I have the chassis, I have the rifle finally, so it's going to happen. But it'll be interesting. I was a little worried looking at that, though. The Fenris, that's how you say it, right? Fenris.
Yeah. That's the one I did a video on.
Yeah, I have a couple shorts, and like the long form came out like a week or two ago. I actually really like that stock, and I like the way that the stock is made as well. Like I really like that stock.
Yep, but obviously you're right-handed.
Yeah, I love it. That stock's awesome.
For hunting, it's great.
I think hybrid. It's a little a little heavy for like backcountry hunting. I wouldn't want to use it like elk hunting, but it's good for like light hunting, and then also like going to the range, in my opinion, where you got like that nice kind of like the HMR style. Like if you were to think of HMR style stocks like from Bergara, it's got like that kind of appeal, in my opinion.
Yeah. I literally wish they just had some M-lock slots on the bottom of the forend, and that's basically it.
Yeah, I can see especially from a non-hunting standpoint. I can see why you'd want that.
Yep. And once again, if you're left-handed, obviously you can't share that gun with left-handed people. And so even though they have a whole bunch of inlets for the GRS, for left-handed versions, they only have, so on the Fenris, they only have it for the Tikas. They don't have it for the Remington 700s, the Savage, the Mauser, the Bergaras. I think I'm missing one more, and the Howas. They only have those.
Some companies don't make a left-handed rifle, though. Is that why?
No.
Like some of those companies don't make a left-handed rifle.
Yeah, but basically, if you're left-handed, you can still shoot it right-handed. Or let's say, for example, if you're cross-eye dominant, things like that.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it was almost like an afterthought at first for them. So when they did the molds, they did them for right-handed, and like, oh, yeah. So
Hmm.
there you go. All right. And on that wonderful note, thank you guys, everybody, for joining. Make sure you smash the like button, share this live stream. And we'll go from there. We'll try to do a members only live stream a little bit later this week. I did put up a code for the members only giveaway. I'll probably have some more stuff and we will go from there. We'll have some videos out this week. As always, thank you guys for joining and we'll see you in the next video sometime later this week.